Hey, welcome to Whatcha Doin with Brandon Horwin.
And Sophie Williams. And today's special guest is...
Hello, everybody. I'm Josh Breckenridge, friend of Brandon here. And I am a New York Broadway performer. I'm currently in Come From Away. That is, of course, not in production because of the shutdown, but I am the dance captain and a standby at Come From Away on Broadway.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Whatcha Doin. Thanks for joining us today.
What you doing? Thank you. I'm glad. Thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to be here.
So we ask this every episode, but it's always great to see the journey and where it started. So can you just take us through sort of how you got your start in theater and, along the road where it led you to today?
Yeah, sure. Well, I do a lot of Broadway classroom type classes where I teach kids dance and we have talkbacks. And I always say my start was I was a bad kid in school. I got detentions all the time. I was so distracted, ADD child. And then we went and saw my first musical, which was Annie, at this college. I'm from Southern California. We saw it at PCPA and Pacific Conservatory of the Performing Arts. And I saw it and I walked out of that theater being like, I want to do that. I want to be an orphan in a red wig and sing and no, I'm kidding. But I want to perform.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I know, right?
When I saw Annie the first time, that's what I thought.
Right. No, but I was so blown away by, it was sad. I was like in 7th grade. I had never seen a musical. So I was kind of a late bloomer to discovering the art of theater and musical theater specifically. But I fell in love with it then. I started focusing. I did my first like kind of leads in high school. And then I did a lot of community theater at a really great theater out here in San Diego, which is where I am, Moonlight Amphitheater. And then just realized I could make money doing it and, sing, act, and dance, be the center of attention and get paid for it. Sign me up. So I applied for schools, went to the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music, CCM, got my BFA there, graduated. We had what they call a showcase for agents and casting directors, got my agent from that, got my equity card from that through a 2-week reading at Playwrights Horizons, which was a blessing. And then from there, just started working. Like 3 months into my stay in New York, I got my first Broadway show, which was such a blessing and luck and fortunate. I was very fortunate for that. I did the Ritz on Broadway and then did Saved off Broadway, Playwrights, and the stuff started piling up. So yeah, that's my story. And now I'm trying to pursue some passion projects here during this pandemic to bide my time until my show starts up again. So that's the history of me.
Great. Well, you already touched on this, that your Broadway debut was in the Ritz by Terrence McNally, and then you moved into the Scottsboro Boys. So what were those experiences like for you, and what did they mean for your career?
Well, Ritz was the Ritz was incredible because it was a play, which for me as a musical theater performer, it was awesome to get that validation of, I can do straight theater too. And it was very much a validating process for me. Also, just because it was my first Broadway show, and I worked with Kevin Chamberlain and Rosie Perez and Brooks Asmanskas and so many great both TV, film and theater stars. So that was very cool for me. And to work at Studio 54, which is so famous and infamous, was really cool. Of course, so before I did Scottsboro Boys, I did the show called Saved, which is it was a theatrical take off of the movie. You're too young to remember this, both of you guys, but Mandy Moore did a movie called Saved. She played this young pregnant teen, and she was a devout Christian and dealing with her faith and that whole predicament. And it was really great. It was with Aaron Tveit and a lot of awesome people, Julia Murney, Celia Keenan Bolger. So it was a really cool time to work with some awesome people. And then came the Scottsboro Boys, which that and Come From Away for me, I know we'll get to that, were just life-changing theatrical experiences, moments that I'll never forget, things that changed me, people that I've worked with that have now become lifelong relationships and friendships. and just you know, one of those first moments where I realized the importance, or I really got the chance to execute the importance of storytelling and how much responsibility we often have, especially telling, you know, truthful stories of people who actually lived, and come from away's sake, people that are actually still living now. So I would say that the Ritz was just a wonderful first experience for me, and to kind of burst that bubble on Broadway, and was so wonderful. And then Scottsboro Boys was awesome for a whole slew of other reasons. I also was Susan Stroman's dance captain, so that was pretty awesome and stressful, as you can imagine. But yeah, all in all, it was like an incredible journey. All of 2010 was Scottsboro Boys, from off Broadway at the Vineyard, to out of town in Minneapolis at the Guthrie, to Broadway at the Lyceum.
Yeah. So you've touched on this slightly in the last question, but you most recently appeared on Broadway and Come From Away. So can you just explain, you know, you said the responsibility of portraying a real person.
Sure. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And with Come From Away, we actually got to go to Gander. We got screeched in, which is a whole ritual process of becoming an honorary Newfoundlander. And I got to meet a lot of those people that I was playing. And, you know, as a standby, I cover 6 or 5 of the 6 men in the show. So it's a lot of people. It's an honor to play these roles, especially with such a poignant and striking like bit of subject matter. You know, it's something that is so something we need right now. I was actually talking to some of my cast members, and I hope that we can do something, at least on this 9/11 anniversary, to bring a little more hope and love and warmth to the world, because clearly it's a, for lack of better words, show right now, crap show, shit show. It's pretty bad. So the show brings a lot of that heart and humanity that I think we're lacking right now. But for me, it's really an honor to play these people, and there's nothing better than having the actual person come up to you and say, wow, you got me down. You did me right. Or it's an honor to play. I played Kevin T at one point, and the real Kevin T came up to me and was like, well, I never thought I'd be a good-looking African-American man, but I'm very happy that I got a chance to live through you on stage. And, you know, it's just so funny. And the show is so colorblind that way. So I get to play so many folks, and it really is an honor to do it and to do it right. Hopefully that answers that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you touched on this too, but can you just explain to our audiences a little more about what your duties entail for a standby for Come From Away, and then what tracks you cover again?
Yeah, sure. For all you theater nerds out there, you know, standby is someone who typically covers principal roles. So a swing, I like to say, is someone who, or it's a fact, someone who covers ensemble tracks, right? And a standby covers leads typically. There's a lot of different terminology there, but our show is a very unique situation in that each track in itself, each of the 12, 6 men, 6 women, each of those 12 tracks are kind of swings in themselves, in that every person on stage plays at least 3 different characters, wears at least 3 different hats. So they kind of have to have this swing mentality in themselves. So for a standby, it's a big responsibility. It's a lot of like, what is the show as a whole? Because you really have to know the show piece by piece, and then know which puzzle piece you are at that given moment, depending on which track you're playing. So it's a lot of responsibility. There's costume handoffs, there's chair moves. Every track is specific and is a cog in the machine of Come From Away that Kelly Devine and Christopher Ashley brilliantly have created, that cannot be disposed of. Everybody is an integral part to the piece. So standby has a lot of responsibility. And myself as a dance captain, I need to know everybody's track, male and female. And so it's a lot to keep all that in here. But luckily, Ricky Hines, our associate choreographer, has made an incredible Come From Away Bible, which has every bit of literature, every bit of markings of where you stand, what track you go, what route you go during each number. So it makes it really easy, or easier to maintain and keep all that info in your head. So standby's job is pretty tough. You got to be ready on the go. I had a couple of times where I was called mid-show and had to go on. Someone had food poisoning at one point, and so they went off and I went on without the show stopping. I've gotten calls on the train right before the show, so you just have to be on guard, ready. There's also times where you have vacations that are planned, of course. So an actor will take a vacation, weeks, months, maybe sometimes even a year ahead, depending on how long the show is running, that you'll be on to cover that vacation. So standby's work is never really done. A dance captain's work is absolutely never done. So both of those titles for myself makes it a challenging job, but I love it.
Awesome. So can you go, just for our audience, can you go into like a bit more detail as to what your duties as a dance captain are? Like, is it Bible standard on Broadway that you talked about?
Yeah, I think, well, when I did the Scottsboro Boys, Jeff Whiting was the associate choreographer under Stro, as we call her, Susan Stroman, and he developed Stage Right, which is a program, an app where you can literally color coordinate who goes where, which number. There's like a grid and a map that you can live by, that can make the learn show, when I teach a new person coming into the show, or just the over time keeping the show in our belts, that process easier as well. But Ricky Hines in our show made up his own version of that, and so I cling to that Bible. I know a lot of shows have Bibles in a way. When I teach, it's basically all up here, but I'll use it to refresh and make sure I know what I'm teaching. My job is to hold, if the associate choreographer is not in the building, which typically they're not, unless we're putting in new people into the show, because we have 5 companies and he's off teaching, new companies, new people, and yada yada. So it's my job to teach, to hold standby rehearsals, right, understudy rehearsals. So we have those at least once a week, where each of the standbys, I think we have 6, 2 of each sex, 3 men, 3 women. We switch around, and one week I'll do Kevin J, one week I'll do Oz, I'll do Bob another week, and then a lot of times I'll just stand out as the dance captain and watch, and then I'll give notes. So these are like hour and a half rehearsals where we run through the whole show. We have a note process. We go home. It's also my job to help with put-ins. If we have a new actor that's coming, sometimes I'll even hold rehearsals, audition calls. So it'll be my job to teach an audition to actors, help with that kind of casting process. And then they'll cast someone, they'll come in, I'll teach them their whole track, which typically, if it's a person, let's say someone was coming to replace Beverly Bass, as someone did, as Rachel Tucker did when she came in to replace Jen Colella. She'll come in and it'll take like a month to learn one track, because as I said, each role has at least like 3 different characters. Typically, I would say it takes like 2 weeks in a normal average show to learn a role. With our show, it takes about a month, and with a standby, if a new standby came in, they'd have to learn. It would take about a month to learn each track that they cover. So again, as a dance captain, my job to teach dance calls when the associate choreographer is not there, hold understudy rehearsals, help with put-ins, and then also the biggest job and the most consistent one is to maintain the integrity of the show. And with our show, it's very much a blur between blocking and choreo. Most shows, it's pretty much the blocking is the associate director's job, and the choreography is the associate choreographer and dance captain's job. But here, Chris and Kelly have done such an expert job of molding the two that it's kind of one and the same. So it's my job to know where everyone is at every moment of the show, dancing or not. So I have to watch the show maybe a few times a week, and note the onstage cast members, make sure they're doing well. And when a standby goes on stage, I will sit out in the house and make sure that their performance for the first time on is great. I'll give notes. So it's just my job to stay around in the building and make sure that the show is held together, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That was a long-winded answer, but hopefully that.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect.
Awesome.
So changing the subject just a little bit,
Yeah.
Come From Away. It's such a portrayal of just a major historical event. So my question is, do you think art to this caliber will be produced soon about all the events that have just happened in this last year? And how soon do you think actors and audiences will be able to digest that?
That's a good question. I absolutely think that this the events of, you know, this pandemic, this political stuff that's been happening, Black Lives Matter, there's so many things that have been real world situations that have been happening that are absolutely going to be theatricalized and turned into you know, dramatized, turned into stories both on film and TV and in theater. How could we not? You know what I mean? People thought it was impossible to have a story about 9/11, and in fact, when we first came out with our show, we had, you know, people that were in protest about it because they thought it was distasteful and inconsiderate and or insensitive, until they saw the show and saw actually how beautiful it was. Same thing with the Scottsboro Boys. Had a lot of people that were protesting outside the theater, not wanting it to go forward. So I think that people will probably be hesitant, especially depending on what the subject matter is. I think that maybe we'll see the first signs of that kind of storytelling in cinema. I think it'll be easier to stomach that stuff on the screen. But I do think that that will happen eventually, maybe give it a year or two. But I think that hopefully actors, the thought is, Dr. Fauci said that we'll hopefully be back this fall. And I know ever since March 12th, when we were shut down, it's been like setback after setback after setback. And naturally, I think we're all patient as we can be, but we know that it realistically, you know, we just have to wait. It's not, it would be worse to come back to Broadway, a slew of people get sick, and then we're shut down for good. You know what I mean? Because I think we have one chance to do it right. If things go to, you know, if things fall through and people get sick, it's going to be really bad news for Broadway. So I think people are really trying to do it right. And I'm hopeful, as Dr. Fauci says, that, you know, I'm hopeful that we'll come back in the fall. I know that shows are going to have to start from scratch, basically. Like, we're going to have to be in tech rehearsals all over again, relearning the scripts. It's going to be a big journey, but I'm excited for it. And yeah, I'm excited for some kind of storytelling version of our current life right now. It's it'll be interesting to see something on stage that you live through, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you know, what does being in a hit show with incredible heart and poignant meaning like Come From Away mean to you? And what effect did it have on your career, or will it have?
It means a hell of a lot to me. It means, again, I'll say responsibility is the word that comes up a lot for me. To walk out of that stage door every day and to see faces like yours that are just so overjoyed and brought to tears and inspired and passionate, and it really feels like we're doing a great job, a small job. You know, it's an hour, it's a 100-minute long musical, but if we can make people smile and think and feel for that amount of time, it's a beautiful feeling. So I feel responsible to tell this story and tell it right, and it's an honor to do that. I think for my career, it's legitimized both Come From Away and the Scottsboro Boys kind of legitimized me as an actor. People that have done both those shows, or because there's a few of us, DeLon Grant had done Scottsboro Boys in Boston. And so he kind of has that experience too of doing both. People know that it takes like real established, trained actors to pull off these real life stories and to tell the truth and to be minimal and to not have to depend on crazy sets. You know, both Scottsboro Boys and Come From Away were designed by Beowulf Borat, who, you know, they're basically some chairs on stage and trees and minimal structures. So it really forces you to like delve deep into the storytelling. So I think people have a lot of respect for me in the casting world. I think sometimes when they see that on my resume, they're like, oh, that's an actor's actor. He's a real true storyteller. You know, not anything against a lot of the more fluffier pieces that are out there in theater, but I think it really is a signifier of talent that's required to pull that stuff off. So I'm grateful for both of those experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've done some regional work. Most notably, you've done Dave the Musical, which was at Arena Stage. Brendan and I are very familiar. So what did you learn just premiering a regional show?
There's a lot of stress that comes into that. You know, it's like what I do in this moment sets the show. And sometimes, you know, the longevity of the show. And now, again, like shows aren't frozen until they're frozen. They're not complete until they're on Broadway and gone through the whole preview process and changes and this and that. But when you're out of town creating a show, a lot of times there's a lot of thought that goes into what choices am I making. We joke and say as dancers, like when folks are doing tricks and tumbling and like and flips and this and that, we joke and say like, be careful, you got to do that 8 times a week forever, for as long as the show runs. So whatever you do, it's getting cemented. We joke also because in Come From Away, Lee McDougall, who is the original Doug in Come From Away, when they were choreographing one of the numbers, Prayer, he randomly just stood back in the wings and like hung out behind a tree. And because of that, Christopher Ashley didn't see him, and forevermore that character is not in that number. It's not blocked. And Lee, we call him Lee of the Trees. He like went back into the trees and was like, I think I want to break at this moment in the show. I'm going to see what this works. And so he's not in that number, which is so funny. It's rare that stuff like that happens, but yeah, so it's a lot of responsibility, and it's exciting though to create a role, to be trusted to create this role, a new role. For me, for Dave, it was awesome because playing a Secret Serviceman was really exciting. And in DC, I met with a real life Secret Serviceman, or excuse me, I talked online to her, and she was incredible and gave me some invaluable information that helped me just to form that role and to do it realistically. So yeah, there's again, responsibilities like the word of the day, but there is a lot of that involved, and it's a lot of fun.
Great. So we sort of already know this, but where were you prior to the COVID shutdown, and have you been able to adapt to any online work, virtual projects, etc. since then?
Yeah, I was I was at the theater when they shut down, and we sat in the audience and waited for our producers to culminate and figure out what the heck was going on. And they said, go home. And I was at home. I was home for maybe a week after we shut down, and I got COVID. I was one of like the early folks that had it. Someone in our cast we figured out had it, and of course we're in such close confines in our dressing rooms, let alone on stage, that it was inevitable. So a lot of us got it. I would say I had a mild to medium case. I was able to get through in like 3 weeks, which sounds like a long time, but compared to some of these other unfortunate situations, I really was blessed and lucky. I started like songwriting again. I wrote some songs I was in a boy band called Infinite, with a little symbol, as you can imagine. So corny in high school when like boy bands were big, before you guys were alive, probably. And so I wrote songs for this little boy band. I used to love it, and there's something so fulfilling and artistic about creating art that way. And so I finally had time, or gave myself time to write. And I wrote one song, I wrote another. I ended up writing 12 plus songs, and I was like, I have enough for a record here. Let me think about like fulfilling this pipe dream. And cut to now, where I am about 2 weeks away from my 2.5 weeks away from my debut single, dropping on like all musical platforms. So I'm really excited about that. I've met with the producer. All my songs are recorded. Most of them are mastered. I have a marketing consultant who's gotten my stuff out there. And now I'm working on this kind of musical campaign of dropping a single a month and then releasing my album in the summer. So I'm really excited. So that's been my huge passion project.
That's awesome. So we can find that the first one drops in 2 weeks. Yeah,
February 6th. It'll be on iTunes, Spotify, everything. And I'll be making some posts. I'm sure you can let folks know that I'm Josh.Breckenridge on Instagram. right now, Josh Breckenridge on Facebook. I'm going to change it to Jay Breckenridge. That's my artistic name, my music artist name that I'll be going by, but you can look me up that way. Yeah, it'll be out there February 6th. I'm really excited.
That's awesome, Josh. Yes, folks, keep an eye out for that, and we'll be, attaching. We'll be updating our links on here once that's out too. So on our episode when this goes out.
Awesome.
Great. So you've also done some work on TV, and most recently, I think it was Blacklist with Andrew McCarthy as the director, and FBI, and Finding Me. And so, how do you find working on TV for you as an artist, and in your career that took off on stage? And do you plan to pursue more gigs in TV in the future as well?
Yeah, man, it's been a dream to be on set and fulfilling that side of my aspirations and goals. I've always wanted to do film and TV. Theater kind of just was the fundamental route that I took and kind of stuck with it. I love it. That's my first love. I would love to be able to bounce back and forth through all three mediums. I love to he's a friend of mine because we did Save together. I mentioned him before, but Aaron Tveit is a great example of someone who's able to like film, TV, theater, and bounce back and forth. And I would love to get that going for myself. And I think I'm on the right track for that. Yeah, Blacklist was incredible. That team is insanely awesome and nice and wonderful to work with.
We watched your episode. It was great.
Yay! Oh, good. Thanks, man. I have another one. I have Blue Bloods. I did Blue Bloods right after that, and that's coming out on the 22nd of January, so a week from this coming Friday. So that was really awesome too. So that, yeah, things just kept going. I mean, 2020 was a crap year for all of us, but towards the latter end of it, there was a lot of good, wonderful work for me, which is awesome. I also did this show called We the People. We filmed it on stage so that it's a film that's available for schools as a resource for education. Kids are not able to get out to see, for field trips, for shows anymore, much like when I saw Annie and got bitten by the bug, right? So now, luckily, TheaterWorks, twusa.com, like those folks have been awesome in putting together this We the People production that was off Broadway and then is one of their touring shows that circuits around the country, which is pretty awesome. I got to play Jefferson, and this was actually before Hamilton came out. This was like in 2000. Oh God, I think they said like 10. I'm not sure, but it was a really cool experience. So I did that in the fall. After that was Blacklist, and then Blue Bloods, and then I went home to New York for like 2 months to do that work, also to record the album. So I was busy there, photo shoots, all this stuff, and then now I'm back in California. Things were a little lax through the holidays. Now they're picking up again, getting ready to do the album release stuff and all the singles. But yeah, the TV has been awesome. I can't wait to see Blue Bloods. I'm always nervous to see myself on screen, I think, as a lot of people are, but yeah, I plan to do a lot more on-screen work, and I'm hopeful that these gigs will help to pave the way for more gigs to come.
Great. Well, so you've been up to a lot of great stuff, and have been continuing to make a really worthy and inspiring career for yourself. So what advice do you have for up and coming students and future artists to especially amid the chaos going on, to kind of keep on going to pursue their dreams in theater and entertainment?
Yeah, I first of all, thank you, man. That means a lot. I always say stay practiced, stay conditioned. I've done my Broadway shows, I've done some film, some TV, but I'm never done working on my craft. I have Matt Farnsworth is my voice teacher, incredible guy. I Skype, I Zoom and have voice lessons with him on the regular. I am reading constantly. I got like acting literature all over the place here that I'm constantly trying to stay versed in that and just keep stimulated, keep things going. A lot of the things are stuff that I've read and been taught before, but it's said in a different tone, a different voice. So it's very inspiring. I also take some dance classes online when I can, stay healthy and work out. So I just say stay conditioned. We had our 10th anniversary for Scottsboro Boys recently, and we had a big Zoom call. Stro and Tommy Thompson and John Kander and the whole team. And Stro, one of the big things he said to us is like, guys, you got to keep it going. You cannot sit and get overweight, get out of shape in every way, and then come back and try to hit the ground running. When things are back, people are going to be out there trying to get jobs, hungry. So you have to stay conditioned. And we were like, yes, ma'am. So that was inspiration for me, even though I already planned to stay in it. But I would say for everyone else to just keep yourself as well rehearsed and ready for opportunities when they arise, because they will. We'll get back to normal. We'll get through this as a human race, and we'll, things will get better. So I say keep yourself ready. Audition for schools. I know a lot of friends that are doing getting degrees online right now. There are so many outlets and ways to stay active and stay well rehearsed and ready for the big moments when they come. So I just say keep at it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So just kind of starting to wrap up here.
Sure.
What's your favorite show you've done? Like, who's your favorite person you worked with? Any of the above?
God, there's so many people. I don't know if he's my favorite, but he just popped out to me right now. I had a lot of fun on the Book of Mormon. I did that first national tour. It's a show. It's so funny. I forget to like mention that in my when I talk about my shows, because it was not because tour is any different from Broadway, but it just feels like so separate. It was 2 months shy of 4 years I was in that show. So the longest gig I've ever done. And for some reason, I always forget to like, oh yeah, that one huge chunk of my life that I spent on the road. I had so much fun doing that show. We were the first we were the first show, the first national tour after the Broadway company. So we were rock stars on the road. We spent like 4 months in each city, like in LA and San Francisco and all around. And we got to go to the Scottsboro studios and see how they create a show. They made us into Scottsboro characters. Like I have a framed picture of me as a Scottsboro character, like so much fun. And Gavin Creel, who is a great friend to this day, was our Elder Price, started off as our Elder Price. And I love that guy so much. He is been such an inspiration. I remember when I was in college, I nerded out and tried to sing, What Do I Need But Love from Millie, and a lot of his stuff that his voice is one of those that I idolized. And so to work with him firsthand, to see how much of a kind human being he is, was just such an inspiration. And who doesn't love Gavin Creel? So he's one of the great people that I'm friends with and have worked with who have been awesome. My entire cast of Scottsboro Boys, Coleman Domingo, John Cullum, Forrest McClendon, like everybody in that show was a dream. And this show, I mean, Come From Away, everyone's awesome. There's so many people I could fangirl out about, like everyone that I've worked with. But yeah, I guess I'll say Gavin. Gavin's been a really fun person to work with, great inspiration, and an awesome friend.
Absolutely. Now, do you have a favorite story from your career that you just would love to share with us today?
There's a lot. I'll tell 2 quick ones. One was Book of Mormon. I was the doctor in that show. So the one that talks about maggots somewhere in a place on his body. There's a moment where I walk across stage when we were first introduced into Africa, and I drag a donkey across the stage, and it's a sight gag, and it's supposed to show how impoverished the area is. And we were in different theaters, around the country, of course, and I somehow got locked out of the theater. Like we had to go out of the dressing room, walk downstairs, open a door to get to like stage right where I entered, and I somehow got locked out. And so the donkey, for the first time in Book of Mormon history, did not make his epic cross across stage, and I was locked out for like 2 scenes before someone was able to get to me. So that was crazy and embarrassing. And then in Come From Away, my first time on stage, I was kind of thrown on stage last minute. The first number of the show, a spotlight hits a bunch of people, and you turn your head out, you say your sentence, you turn back, and so the spotlight operator's like, get that actor, that actor, that actor. The spot went on me, and I turned around and I was like, my dad's always saying like I went blank, forgot all the lines, and the spotlight just went out on me. They're like, abort, get out of there. He's never gonna recover. Next. And with that show, there's like 2 vamps in that entire show. Everything is so, nothing is like, okay, let's let your line go by. Everything's like your line, get out for the next person. It's very set in time, and I just was not gonna get it out in time. And so they're like, oh, get out of there. So that was embarrassing. I have plenty more stories, but there was not enough time today for them. But yeah, those are 2 funny, embarrassing ones of mine. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for being on the show. It was great to have you. So you've got We the People, you've got Blue Bloods, you've got your debut single coming out. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share here that's coming up?
Just hopefully some healthy months ahead for myself and for all of us. I will say that my first single is called Come to Me, and it will come out on February 6th. You can pre-order on February 1st. I'm J Breckenridge, so J.Breckenridge. My website is j-breckenridge.com. It's not public right now. It will be on February 1st. When we launch everything, and you can look forward to month after month from July. There'll be 6 singles with an album drop in August. So just look out for J Breckenridge.
Absolutely. And we will attach those links to this episode as well, and post about it for you on our pages.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Awesome. This was so fun, and stay well and safe until we're all able to be together again.
I will. Thank you. And Sophie and Brandon, you guys are awesome, and thank you for doing what you're doing. This is hopefully food for thought for a lot of people, and entertaining and educational and all of the above. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed that last episode. We're so excited to announce the launch of our campaign for 2 very important organizations, Broadway Cares and the Actors Fund, to directly benefit the theater industry in the new year.
With the inspiration and initiation from Broadway's Caesar Samayoa and Delon Grant of Come From Away, we will now be accepting donations to our company Venmo, which is at Whatcha Doin podcast, for the near future, to split the donations between those 2 worthy organizations. And from there, we will be doing a big monthly donation to each organization on behalf of our podcast and its guests.
We hope you can see it in your heart at this time to spare whatever you can. $1 goes a long way right now, and it's all to help an industry that has given us all so much.
Thank you so much for all of your help to our listeners and followers, and please spread the word. We really appreciate it.